The city runs on a fiscal year, and the city's fiscal year starts on July 1, and it runs through June 30th of each year. And I don't know why that is, but that's just the way it is. The federal government actually uses a different fiscal year that starts on October 1st and runs through September 30th. Most of us as individuals run on a year that starts January 1 and goes through December 31st. But for our fiscal year, we started on July 1 and we ended on June 30th. The year we're in right now, that we're a little over halfway through, will end on June 30th, 2008, and we call that the 08 budget. Next. So for the 09 budget, that's the year that'll start on July 1, 08 and run through June 30th of 09, we start preparing for that approximately October of 07. So we're getting pretty far out as far as doing our projections and on what actual numbers we have. And as we begin that, we start working with the different departments. The city of Alamogordo is what you call an A to Z city. Yeah, we do everything almost. We start at the airport and we go all the way through to the zoo. And so we're a very full service city. That's not true in every community, but in our community it is a very true statement. So we have a great deal of variety within our city and the services we provide, and we work at a lot of the department level in order to determine what our costs should be and what we need to do to provide the service levels to our citizens. So we start off with doing department projections on what's going to be needed. We do a management review of those, and then we have to put together a balanced budget, and we typically get that together and present it to the City Commission in May of each year. That is one of the specified tasks that the city manager has as the administrator of the city, is to prepare a balanced budget and present it to the City Commission for their consideration. Next. The city budget also requires approval from the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration. They're known as DFA. And, in the United States, there's a little fast civic lesson. In the United States of America, we have essentially two levels of government. We have the federal government, and then we have the state government. And those levels coexist. In each of those, then, we have a constitution that grants powers to those governments. Most cities are what are called general law cities. They're a creature of the state. And the city of Alamogordo is actually a creature of the state also, but we're a charter city. So we're a little different. General law cities can only do what they're permitted to do. The city of Alamogordo is a charter city, and that's because we have a provision in the state constitution that allows the citizens here to set up and say what we want the city to do. So we're allowed to do anything except what we're prohibited from doing. And that's a real big difference. It's kind of like if you had teenagers. The teenagers, you as a parent would give them some rules, and you would think that they would understand that that covered a pretty broad category. But your teenagers kind of turn that around and they say, well, this is explicitly what I can't do, but I guess I can do everything else. And so that's kind of the difference between them. In the financial area, the state has had a lot of experience in giving us rules. So they're very restrictive, and that's one of them is they want to review everything we're doing, how we're doing it, what we're doing. So the city has to present a preliminary budget to DFA by June 1 of each year for the upcoming fiscal year. So in this case, that'll be June 1 of 2008 for the 2009 fiscal year. They then give us preliminary approval back by July 1 of 2008 for the 2009 fiscal year. The city uses what's called fund accounting. And fund accounting is it's a system that's used by governments everywhere. We're a nonprofit entity. So the system is basically built around measuring accountability instead of profitability. In the free enterprise system, of course, you are looking for profitability. In the governmental system, we're looking for tracking how the money is spent rather than if any profit is earned. The fund accounting is, it's also, each of these funds is kept like a separate company. And it has its own balance sheet with the assets and the liabilities and the equity, the ownership of the public. Next. In the city of Alamogordo, we have one general fund. And the general fund is where we have the most latitude in how we utilize our monies and how we pay for things. We then have 5 enterprise funds. Enterprise funds are the closest thing we have to being like a private business. That they're intended to set up a system where the users pay for the services they receive. They still run on a break-even. There's not any profit motive built into there, but the income is intended to cover the cost of providing that service. We then have 25 special revenue funds. Each one of these is restricted by the type of money. The money that comes in to be used there has certain strings attached. It can only be used for certain specific tasks or duties. We then have 10 trust or agency funds. And trust or agency funds are similar to special revenue in that the city doesn't have the free use of that money either. It's typically money we're holding for somebody else. An example would be utility deposits. So when you start a new account with the city for water and sewer, you have to put up a deposit, and that money is held until you either establish your credit with the city or you close your account, at which time it gets paid back. So we have 10 of those types of funds within the city. We have one internal service fund, and an internal service fund is a operation that typically doesn't provide service directly to the public. It provides service to other departments within the city. An example might be the personnel department. They take care of screening applications and putting out advertisements and making sure that the personnel rules and regulations are followed. So they're not really directly providing service to the public, they're providing service within the city. Another example would be the purchasing department, that it makes sure that we follow all the necessary rules on purchase of goods and services for the city. We have 5 debt service funds. And a debt service fund is the city has to have a balanced budget. But we can borrow money. When we borrow money, we're really borrowing money from the future. So the question is, how can you say you have a balanced budget if you borrow money from the future? What we have to do is have a dedicated income stream to show that we can pay back that money. And so that's what these debt service funds are, is that's how we're assuring we're paying it back. And then we have 10 capital funds. Capital funds are, again, money with restrictions on it. They can only be used for brick and mortar type activity. Can't be used for salaries or to buy operating supplies. And so it's very restricted type money. In fact, most of our money is fairly restricted. In total, we have 57 funds that we track and keep pace with.